Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, we break them apart to find out what gives them their very special, weird magic. I don't know. I'm your co-host, Alex D'Andino. Get ready for this next episode in our Horror Abyss month. We take a deep dive into the Horror Abyss. But first, a little business. Guys, please, we're on Patreon now. I know we tell you every episode every week, but I got to tell you again, we're on Patreon now. We're very excited by all this. So we're on Patreon. It's $1. It's $1 gets you access to our Discord server. And that's a fun place where we just talk about all kinds of movies. We give you guys little wink sneak peeks to some cool stuff we're doing and all that kind of good shit. And then on top of that, we're on all your socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I don't know of any other socials. So I'm assuming those are the only 3 at this point. And then, of course, whatever podcast app you listen to us on, Spotify, hopefully Apple Podcasts. And if so, please leave a rating and review. It really helps us beat these evil demon Louisiana overlords. They're not from Louisiana, but who knows? All right, business out of the way. Guys, we have an amazing episode tonight. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about this. We brought one of my friends from the comic book world, Rob Pilkington, over. He's going to tell you a little bit about him, more of his bona fides, but Rob's a great writer. He writes short horror films. He writes a lot of comics. He actually has a really, really decent one out right now from TKO Studios called Dame in the Dark. If you like awesome 1920s ghosts with the present, all kinds of fun stuff, please go check it out. He's a great guy. He was a great guest. And we watched this insane movie by Lucio Fulci called The Beyond. I'm sure those of you listening know what it is. If you do not, get ready, strap in. I will actually recommend you listen to our pod first before you watch this movie, because it might actually help clue you into some things that are happening, or watch along. Who knows? Either way, please, please, please enjoy this pod. Rob came on, did us a huge solid. We had such a fun conversation. So here it is. Do you hear the music? Right. I'm so excited to do this. I watched this movie today and I was like, holy shit. We have Rob Pilkington with us. Rob, thank you for coming. This
Thank you guys for having me.
First off, this is out of context. Like, this is our first actual guest recording for our October month. So this is really exciting.
Okay, cool.
And you picked the weirdest fucking movie for us to watch, which is even better.
I didn't mean to do that, but I'm glad it went over well with the
Chef's
Film
kiss.
Alchemist folks.
It was perfect. Rob, of course, I actually know Rob through the comic book life. Rob, tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump into this bad shitness.
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Rob. I'm a writer out here in LA, doing the screenplay thing, and got into comics as well, and met a ton of great people both online and real life who are doing that thing, Alex being one of them. And you're gonna keep
banging it.
Keep pushing the comics, keep writing the comics.
So humble. Dude, Rob, you gotta book a TKO, man.
Right, I forgot. I'm bad. I haven't been on a podcast in a minute. Okay, so I do have a book at TKO Studios called Dame from the Dark. It's one of their shorts.
It's very good.
Thank you, man. We worked very hard on it. It was kind of a very crooked path in terms of pitching it and getting it, convincing someone to pay us to make it. So we're very proud of it. And I don't know, what else can I say about myself? I was the Top Cow runner-up in their talent hunt last year. So I don't know. I'm slowly trying to make some strides.
But do you own a hotel that's on one of the doorways to hell?
Not yet. That's in the works. We're waiting.
That's when you hit your
That's
comics
go to close. Yeah.
When you make all the comics money, then you can buy it.
Yeah, right. I'm waiting for a certain uncle to die and leave it to me. But no.
Yeah, we gotta. So the movie we watched was Rob's request, The Beyond, by Lucio Fulci.
Yeah. I feel like
Wow.
I'm gonna. Yeah. We say request. It was more like a gentle suggestion.
It was.
I feel like you came at us like a mob wielding chains. You're like, The Beyond.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through?
Yeah.
You gave us a really good list of movies you loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one felt right, based on what we're doing and all that.
Right.
What about The Beyond makes it such a beloved film for you?
I mean, we're gonna jump into it, but I mean, it is crazy. It's batshit. It's one of those movies that is so pure in its in childlike intentions to like gross you out that everything else that's going on, any semblance of plot and performance and the logic is just they're all distant seconds to like the cinema of it, like the care that went into like the buckets of blood and like the
True.
just the ooze and the goo and the exploding child heads. It's like incredible. You have to respect it for its for that purity, for that purity. Yeah.
It's a sticky movie for sure.
Yeah, it is just it's
Alex,
everywhere.
what did you think? This was your first time watching it, correct?
It was, yeah.
What were your opening thoughts?
It was like watching Terrence Malick and Lars von Trier like jerk off on each other, just like to see what, like, because it was very sticky.
FYI, if that was a sequel to The Beyond, I would watch that as well.
But I agree, like, for what is like kind of just this like very skeletal plot, it's almost like this weird tone poem in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Of just like how gross can we make like acid death, nails through the eyes. And by the way, and we'll get to it, but I Am Legend totally fucking didn't go all the right way with that. Like they stole this from the Beyond. There's a scene that scene in I Am Legend with the dog. They fucking stole this from the Beyond, and they wouldn't have the balls to take it all.
I
the
wish
way.
it would have gone that
wow.
way. Yeah,
Me too.
I think what you gotta love about this era is there's just so many rough edges mixed with so much beauty.
Yeah.
Mixed with so much like pulpy, disgusting, flesh. So it's this really strange mix, and especially in today's world where everything is so regimented and structured, and there's 18 executives that make sure that everything feels exactly like everything else. When you see something this fucking strange, right? It's one of the, especially now when we all watch everything on our phones, and we're like, oh, I'll turn something on, but mostly we're doing other stuff. Right. This is one of those movies you start watching it, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, what? What? And your phone just like, you throw that shit across the room, you're like, all right, I have to like be a part of whatever's happening on the screen. Yeah. And I feel like that's something that we've kind of lost, are these, because this wasn't necessarily a big budget movie, but it still had a lot of production value. So that rough edges with kind of it's like a pineapple, right? Like prickly on the outside, but delectable inside.
Yes. Oh man, what a metaphor.
Yeah, wow, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It's honestly, I was laughing there's one moment, because there are some stunning visuals. Like one of my favorite like horror moments, I think, is a scene where the protagonist is driving her car down a road, no other cars, and it comes up on a woman standing with a dog in the middle of the road, just waiting for her. And like, part of you is like, oh, this is like a vision. This is like a dream. Like she's, nope, that's part of the movie. That actually happened. That's part of the movie. It's part of the plot. And it's like, it's a beautiful, almost like, I don't know, expressionistic scene or something.
Yeah.
Like it's so wonderful. And then like, so much care is put into that image. And then there's like a few minutes later, there's like a scene where the same character has to like pry open a door, and it's clearly like they couldn't. The door is just closed. Or, and, you know what I mean?
With
like,
her axe.
yeah, with their like shovel or something, and like they could like rig up a way to like make this look a little more convincing. And it's just like, you guys spent probably like a day and a half shooting that car thing, which could have been a throwaway, and
Stopping
it's beautiful.
traffic,
Stopping traffic,
Exactly.
shutting down the freeway for a day and a half.
Yeah, and you didn't spend 5 seconds on this door thing, and it's just like, I kind of love everyone involved for that decision, because it's
there's a lot of that like haphazard filmmaking that kind of like is almost beautiful in its own haphazardness. It's really wonderful. I can tell you right now, the first thing that happens, the first thing that came out of the movie is like Louisiana 1927. Like, nothing good's gonna happen. Like, this is already terrible.
Yeah.
Also, I was like, the sepia budget on this movie.
Oh, yeah.
It looked like, I don't know if you guys remember when we were in high school, we went to Disney for our senior trip, and you could take like an old-timey photo at a saloon where you had like a pump rifle action. You'd put on like a cowboy hat, and like my wife just found hers, and I was like, dear God, do you remember when like we paid money for that? And this movie opened, I was like, oh my God, it's our high school trip. I was, with more like mobs and undertones of racism and shit.
Yeah,
like you see that the guy who's working the hotel, that black guy, is just like, as all the mob runs past him, and I was like, oh damn, like they're really getting in on this, right?
Yeah, but, there's a tense moment there.
Yeah, because again, the movie kind of starts bombastically, and it kind of lets you know what this movie's going to be, right? So we have some kind of tome, and we have this narrator that we never find out who the fucking narrator is.
No.
The whole movie, there's no narrator, and I'm led to believe it's God. It's just God laughing at these people, right?
Yeah.
That has to
Are
be
you sure it's not
narrator is.
Ebon?
Who the fuck is Ebon? We never learned who the fuck Ebon is.
Yeah.
He was a prophet? He wrote a book of prophecies, maybe?
Yes. There's this cursed book that it kind of bounces around the movie, is important somehow. Like, there's not a big explanation as to like what is actually in this book. But it is present at the beginning. I watching it again, I wasn't even clear, because there's two principal characters in this opening prologue. I have the list somewhere. One of them's the painter, Schweck, and then the other one is Emily, who'll come back and be important later. But it's not even clear, is Emily in the hotel with Schweck?
But they later find the dust-covered book at Emily's house, so maybe...
But and she lives like down the road or something, like in a place that also kind of looks like the hotel. Like, it's very
like just a different hotel.
They don't give a damn like what you understand.
My spatial awareness of where Emily was versus where the hotel was, I'm like, I assume they're in the same place.
It was a total mystery to me.
Until it was told that Emily was somewhere else, I legitimately just assumed she was in the hotel. Then they're like, oh no, it's a different place. I'm like,
yeah, it's a different place, but it never... I'm thinking like, oh, she's in like the kitchen of this suite or something, and then
she's living in the pantry.
I thought she was the one that narked him out.
Me too.
Right? That was my assumption, is that she like got the book and she's like, evil! And then they ran in, because my theory is that Ebon's last name is MacGuffin. Right? Having watched the movie. And so they just run in, and it's this weird... I do like this, though, because I like... This movie does this a lot, where they'll kind of have multiple layers going on. And I like the idea, because we don't know that anything bad has happened, right? The first thing we see that happens that's supernatural in any way is Ebon's book bursts into flames, which become, our title placeholder.
Right.
And that's where Emily loses her eyes, right? She beholds the flame, and poof, her eyes are gone, right?
Okay.
So the townspeople are going to beat this dude's ass, right? They're whipping him. And this is one of the things the movie does that I love. Every time they spent money on blood or a gore effect, they push that camera in and just sit on it, right? So every chain whip's like, whoa,
good.
Sit and look at this. And they beat this dude's ass, and I think they inadvertently caused all of the evil that comes for the rest of the film.
Right. That is implied, that somehow, like, the death of this guy who believes in this like Hellgate mythology somehow does unlock whatever is going on at this property, which is a nice like ironic twist to like whatever is going on, but is never explicitly said in any way. Like, we're all geniuses for like picking up on that, but the movie is just like, no, whatever.
Yeah,
we're moving on.
Yeah.
And now it's 50 years later, and
I appreciate it's interesting you put it that way, because like I appreciate movies, like we talk about on the pod a lot, like we appreciate movies that are like 90 minutes long.
Yeah.
What's interesting about this movie is I feel like actually there's a lot of explanation that's needed that is like literally like we'd like to focus on this detail, but we have so many more effects to get to. Like we cannot stay
that
on
spider
this.
eating scene's gonna eat up 4 minutes, so we need
God.
to hurry up.
We definitely need to talk about the spider eating
So
scene.
long. It took
the
forever.
man eating spiders
It's
scene.
just
It takes forever.
it takes forever for them to get there.
They clearly have the budget for 2 actual tarantulas. Everything else is a puppet in a bad. I mean, a puppet has moving parts. These aren't even. They're like what? Like just.
I got a stick. Yeah, like a carnival toy.
Yeah.
Well, you get the feeling they're like, do any PAs have pet tarantulas? I know at least every set has a pet tarantula guy.
This is like the last day, and there's like an art PA who had to run to Party City and grab like 15 fake spiders, and that's like what they had.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing they did spend money on for sure is someone who made all the fake heads. This movie has an enormous amount of fake head damage.
Yes. And
which is awesome.
A few of them are pretty convincing too, at least in those extreme close-ups. There are a couple like eye gouges and stuff that are just like,
the eye gouges
that's a pretty good-looking eyebrow right there. That kind of looks like a real eyebrow.
The Joe pop, the plumber eye pop was, I was like, oh shit. Like it, like off to the side.
Yeah.
Well, he's
that
like
was when I was
sliding
like,
his fingers in under the fucking musculature or whatever. That was, and it's weird because it goes back and forth, but the movie plays in this. There is this funny. I was watching at a point and I was like, is this going to be some kind of reveal where this is all what Emily thinks is happening, but because she's blind, she can't like visualize it properly. So
it's really
like,
just somebody spilled milk.
Yeah, it's like if you told a blind person what a spider was and that it was eating someone's face, that might be what they dreamed up. Because you're like, normally it'd just be like a bite and swelling, but it's like ripping his lips off, forever. And so I was like, is this going to be because obviously when they started with the Duran Duran shot of Emily or whatever on the bridge with the dog, you're like, well, this is not normal. You're like, how did this blind lady and her dog get on the middle of this bridge? So you're like, something's not right. Granted, she still was like, yeah, get in my car with your fucking gigantic murder dog and let's go tickle some ivories, Right. So, but you knew something was up, and I thought that was going to be their twist, is that they were actually one and the same. I thought they were going to do like they were one white lady.
Yes.
Turns out they're of an ilk, but not the same.
Yeah. I mean, did they actually reveal who Liza is?
Well, technically not, because that's a great point you bring up, because they said, the doctor's like, who are you really?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, all this supernatural bullshit starts happening, right? With the wind and lightning storm, and then the doctor's just like, oh, shit. But he never gets an answer to that question. So I guess, in theory, she could be also part of this supernatural, cycle.
Right. I was waiting for some kind of like, oh, she's the painter's niece or something like that. But
I thought at least a descendant of some kind.
Right. And of course, with Emily and Liza being like kind of like mirror images of each other is also that one of the few like expository quiet scenes of the film is them at night discussing what had happened, and like there's like the blue moonlight on Emily, and there's like a warm like lantern light on Liza, and there's like this great sort of like yin and yang thing going on as they examine the painting, and it's like, oh, like it's like actually kind of like a little bit beautiful right here. And it's one of like it's one of like the quiet sort of like elegant parts of this movie that is also just filled with people's heads exploding. And like I don't know, watching it again, I like really appreciate like, oh, there's someone behind the camera who like, I don't know, likes understands cinema enough that like this is actually very pleasing and quite nice.
There's like 2 or 3 of those, like the bridge thing, that moment. There's 2 or 3 of those that are like, and of course it's exposition because that's like the time to slow down before we like start popping people's eyes out again. But like it is this like, not only that too, like I don't know if this is something that I'm just not privy to, but the score in this movie is like, we recently watched Death Wish 3, and it's the same thing I have. Like, it's this weird score of, like... Because, like, when the piano, the creepy piano makes total sense. That's an Emily thing. I get it. Like, that would totally play. But then there's just, like, this, like, spicy...
jazzy.
Like, Italian jazz thing going on.
It's like porno synthesizer music.
there's like a Seinfeld kind of Stinger quality to what's happening, and it's just like,
oh, that's such a great way to put it, because that's what I thought when there's this little girl who's like, my dad died, my mom's a creep who's undressing him, oh no, she has acid face, and then this giant random dead body and like living acid blood are coming at her, and it just burp, and then they're at like a jazz brunch, and you're like, what the fuck is that?
It's the music cues in this movie just throw me off every time. Like something serious is happening, and I'm just like, why am I like shaking my hips to this music while like someone's face is melting off?
Yeah, it's like it's very strange and hilarious. It's like and like it is, Alex, like you said, like it's an emotional whiplash. Like you don't know how to feel. You don't know how the film wants you to feel. It's like,
I think that's the important
like getting
part,
like a bad like cancer diagnosis or something and being pied in the face. You just like, I don't understand what's happening right now.
That could have been a good 90s show. Mark Summers is like, is your mom dying of cancer? Slime. You know what I mean? That is the Beyond, essentially. Yeah.
That was the Nickelodeon show they cut like real quick.
I did want to bring up the music cues in particular, because some of the music, as you said, is quite vintage and choice, but man, the jazzy bass riffs over like the melting people. Really strange. Really strange.
Because I think the old-timey, the tickling the ivory stuff is to let us know that Emily's like our classic gothic ghost character.
Yeah.
Right? Because, again, I still don't... Because there's that really strange scene in the middle, right? I keep coming back to Emily the whole film, because I feel like there's something there that I should have picked up more. And by the end, I was unsatisfied with what I had gotten from it, right?
Right.
And there's the awesome scene where she's looking at the painting of hell and her hands begin to bleed, right? And we see that the opening, the guy who painted that portrait of hell, right? So is that letting us know that the painter had actually seen hell and that's why the people were coming to whip his ass? Or was that just a vision and he had the tattoo, and when they did the, kind of inverted Jesus murder on him, that's what brought this, and why the wall was rotting? There was all this shit, right? And it all kept coming back to Liza, though. And there's that fucking bizarre scene right after that where Liza, who is blind, fucking sprints out of the house and dodges 2 door frames, right? And runs out, and then Lisa, is that it? The main lady,
Eliza,
right? Yeah, Eliza. She's sitting there, and she
Liza,
replays it in her head 3 or 4 times. It was like a Monty Python bit. They kept replaying it with the dog Dinky or whatever chasing it. Sorry, I don't know if you know this about me,
Dicky.
Rob. I can't remember character names.
I have a
dog's
list
name
up
is
right now in
Dicky.
Chrome because
So Dinky's running after the lady. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they added these men's boots. Boom, boom, boom. Walking to let us know that footsteps should make sounds, but hers didn't. But I was like, who's the fucking man's shoes? why is she watching that? And that's when I started to get that, are these two somehow bonded spirits that are both linked to this hotel?
Yeah. That would make more sense. And yeah, I kept coming to I was like, in the end, I really was waiting for like that moment of like, oh, Liza and her are the same person, or like Liza is Emily transported through time, or some sort of like Vision Quest thing. And no, that's like the least important thing, is explaining where Liza comes from and how she owns the hotel. Again, like, it is this like theater of the absurd type thing. It's honestly like this. There's a level of it that's honestly reminds me of like last Halloween we watched Rob's like House of a Thousand Corpses and shit like that. There's a level of it that feels, obviously it's Rob Zombie borrowing from this, but it's that same theater of the absurd where you're just sitting there and you're like, what am I supposed to be paying attention to here? What's the most important thing? And I think the whole time, all I felt was, I'm supposed to be paying attention to the vibe. Like, this movie's vibe is supposed to be what keeps me moving. And that's exactly what it was. It's just like, I'm not necessarily feeling one way or another for any of these characters. They all seem horrible.
But it's a weird diversion, because we know the moment she's on that fucking bridge, blind, we know that something's not right. And it's pretty easy leap to be like, she is some kind of supernatural double agent, right?
Right.
But then she does this strange thing at her house where she's like, I can't tell you why to leave the hotel. Just fucking leave. I'm like, why can't you tell her? You've got nothing but time to walk out on bridges all day. Fucking spill it. And then later that night, she's like, oh, God, you didn't listen. Okay, let's talk now. And it's this fucking weird. There is this element, right? Because the whole film, loosely, I'm trying to say what I think the movie is. Because it devolves into a zombie film with this extra flavor of hell, right?
Yeah.
And so there's this bit of Liza's ghost where maybe she's just playing out this same thing over and over. Because watching her death scene was I thought that was actually probably my favorite moment of the film. Because I've never seen a ghost be worried about being physically attacked by zombies that aren't moving. Right? Like, the zombies aren't chasing her, so you're just watching her in horror crawl around this zombie-filled room, groping blindly, and then she sticks her dog on the ghost. There's like a ghost dog versus ghost zombie fight, and then the ghost, she's like, good boy. When he comes back all bloody, he's like, fuck you, and he bites her throat out. I was like,
I was like,
again, I just laid all that out. I'm not sure what any of that meant, but it struck me as, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before.
Yeah, that scene in particular is a real head scratcher if you're trying to figure out like what exactly is going on, because there is, as you said, Emily is clearly. I mean, even if she knocked on the door and like came in the most boring way, she's still from the same age as she was like 50 years ago. Like, we already understand that like she shouldn't even look this way. Right. And her death scene has amazing close-ups of her in the dark with these contacts, which in the daytime don't look good, but at night are quite convincing.
There was like another set that they gave her at some point that I'm like, because I actually was like wondering, I'm like, are her eyes? Because I thought there was a moment when like the other set they gave her that like shows off her corneas a little better. I was like, is she getting her eyesight back? Is that going to be part of this? Is like if she protects
I thought
the house,
she was doing
like
I thought she was merging with the other lady.
That's like I'm like, oh,
scene,
is she like taking?
Yeah, well, they do the thing where she's like, I don't want to go back. I did what you asked.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh fuck, she's transferring a soul.
Yeah,
and again, they kind of, to Rob's point, they always are like, there's a bit of story, now move on.
Yeah. As soon as you think like you're getting like your footing with like what is actually going on, the logic of it, the movie just like shoves you right off balance, and you're just like, man, I guess that wasn't important. And maybe and like Alex, like you're waiting for like some big reveal at the end, and it's like, hope you enjoyed the vibes. Here are the credits. And like,
Yeah,
I kind of respect it for that.
Yeah, like
absolutely.
it's literally just like, we have nothing else to prove to you. Like that's like the entire. That's like for me, like the last 15 minutes of the movie is like, what else do you want to see?
Yeah.
Like, it's like
here's a case in point, right? Let's talk about Wendy, right? I don't know what her real name is. The lady who looks like Wendy's, right? So Wendy's mom and dad, Wendy's plumber, right? Wendy plumber fucking her dad dies.
Yeah.
She's out there, and there's this strange scene where this
Wendy
guy's pushing
plumber.
the world's squeakiest fucking corpse bed.
yes.
She's like, this is not cool, right? So we're just watching this little girl
it's the
suffer.
worst hospital, by the way.
Think about this series of events, right? Her mom goes in and is like, make a distraction. I'm going to undress your father and put him in a suit before they do all the crematorium
autopsy.
shit.
Yeah.
The autopsy, whatever it's called when you stuff us so our families can come look at us in a box.
Oh,
Whatever
God.
that process is, right?
Oh yeah, and the embalming. Yeah.
Yeah, so the
Embalming,
mom's
yeah.
like ruining his best suit before. But anyway, so she sees something, wigs out, and just lays under acid.
Yeah.
We don't know that she's dead, but when the acid hits her, she doesn't react. That's what this little girl walks in to see.
Yeah.
And then she sees this giant guy fall on her. We Seinfeld. Burp, 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 burp. We cut to later. She's at a funeral, and they whip around and do this push-in, right? And this is like, because now she's realized we're all hamburger. Poof. Now she's got the fucking eyes.
Right.
Why does she have the fucking eyes?
We don't. Well, I mean, you bring up a good point because earlier you said, "Oh, in the prologue, Emily's eyes are ruined by the fire." I didn't necessarily pick that up because I thought it was something else. Because later the kid gets the eyes. The eye thing is totally unclear.
Right.
And maybe when she saw that shit in the operating room with her parents and whoever that burly corpse was, maybe that's when because there is this.
I thought it was
there's this
maybe
running
supposed
theme
to
of
be
people not accepting what is happening, right?
right.
And that maybe when they do accept it, that's when the scale, because I think that's a biblical thing, right, Alex? Like the scales are lifted from your eyes. This is the exact opposite. Your eyes are scaled over with the evil you've seen.
I thought it was maybe because that's exactly what I thought actually. I thought it was like in the way like people when they get scared, like their hair turns white. I was like, is it like you see this like hugely fucked up gate to hell?
And your mind's just like, see ya.
And your mind's just like, we're done. These are done. These the ohos need to go ho. Like it is bad. Like that was what I'm like trying to glean from it, but again, like absolutely none. The rules of magic in this movie, which are not ever like there are no rules, which is kind of like half the fun. Is you're just like they're just making it up as they go. Like,
Hell can't let you see it coming. It's got to keep you on your toes.
like it has the like. I like that there are no. I like that there are kind of no rules. Like this movie is just like happening as it happens, and like. In this era, like Griffey was talking about earlier, where we watch movies that are so... It's very important that people follow the rules of hell or the rules of like...
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Yeah, like... And not even like exec notes, but just like in storytelling format, like very specific rules for zombies, for vampires, for X, Y, and Z, you know? It's fun to watch this movie and realize like hell is still like the most like whatever the fuck you want it to be thing. Because like there aren't like one of our all-time favorite movies on this show is Event Horizon, and hell is literally in a fucking core of a fucking neutron star. Like you're just like, all right, why the fuck not?
Yep.
Like I love that there are no rules. So like you're just the whole time you're just like, I have no idea what's going to happen in this movie next.
Yeah.
And you can watch it more than once, which is really fascinating, and go, I still don't know what's going to happen next because I don't remember that thing happening the first time. Like I can pick you out the choice notes from my memory. Like 3 days from now, I'll be able to tell you, all right, like saw tarantulas eat a guy. I saw a lady's
Number one tarantulas.
I saw a lady's eyeball pop out of her head from a spike. Like I can like name you the really cool gags, but I'll watch this movie again and not be able and be like completely shocked with the ending. and like still think to try to glean like the Liza Emily connection and what it's supposed to mean. And then now little Wendy with her weird eyes. Is there a Beyond 2? Is Wendy the next Emily?
Well,
like there's a whole thing.
So one thing I didn't realize until after I had suggested this movie is that it is the second film in a trilogy. And I don't think I think it's like kind of a loose trilogy of films. Like I don't think there's like a big connection story-wise.
Is this Fulci's like oeuvre thing? Yeah, okay, cool. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So this is like it was famously like censored, I guess. The Shudder summary tells us that it was Quentin Tarantino who used his fame at one point to help restore it to whatever. I mean, it's hard to imagine because one of the other things you have to wonder is like, were there scenes that explain this shit that they just like cut? And it's like, you didn't restore those because those are kind of important.
Right. Is this movie actually 2.5 hours long and really really drawn out? Because but Griffey's got a point. Like all the exposition stuff is very short. And then, like these death scenes are just, but I mean, it's like a Judd Apatow movie worth of like filming this stuff.
There is a double-edged sword to having that exposition back potentially. Is to your point, Alex, is like none of it really. Like I saw Wendy's eyes go yellow, and I was like, that's gonna matter. And then at the end, she just gets her head is just turned into like a double quarter pounder. And I was like, oh fuck, that's it. Like we're not doing anything. She's not gonna come back, reanimate, like nothing. Right? And so if there was something that explained away what she was or what was happening, maybe that shock dissipates for me, right? Maybe there's a bit, because the movie ties up in this really awesome scene at the end when they essentially enter through the fog and they're in the painting. Yeah. And everywhere they turn is this fucking, diorama of hell. Right?
Right.
And their eyes go yellow, and the scientist doctor who's like, wanting to smack everyone around because it's not science. He has like this, oh, fuck, I was wrong look. And she has a relieved look. And I was like, that's it, man. That's all I need. Hit that little moment at the end. And if they over-explain all this away, like if we find out more about the other gates or what the fucking keys were, was he the key because he had the inscription on his wrist? Does that really add anything to this movie?
I would argue that no. I mean, if this was a 2.5 hour movie at one point, like I like this version of this movie.
Yeah, I think I do too. There's nothing that brings me more into this because I'm already in, and like it is just like a vibe movie. Like you're supposed to watch this movie and like get creeped out, grossed out. Maybe, you like zombies that are from hell at the end, and then the movie's over. Like, it's a really fascinating... To me, it's just like a really fascinating thing to set a movie up like this, and it lasts. Like, we're talking about it. It's fucking 2021. This movie was made in 1981, maybe? Something like that? Like, we're talking about it now. Like, that's how important the vibe is, especially for horror movies, but especially for a movie like this. Like, all the Italian horror movies have vibes for days, man. And this one is, like, no different. But this one is, like, so leaned into it.
Yeah.
It almost doesn't matter. And it's fascinating to me. They do that same... There's, like, Italian filmmakers... I don't know why this is a thing. I think they started with Fellini. But, like, they all ADR the dialogue after the movie shot.
Well, that was a weird thing because they wanted to sell it to Americans, right? So a lot of them, when they do the credits and all that, they give themselves Americanized names. Mm-hmm. And it has the terrible American dubbing, right? So it was this extra marketing thing that they just had in mind. Right. And, like, I was looking at the dead bodies at the end, and even the mob, I'm like, they cast the most intentionally white American-looking people they could find.
Oh yeah, that other autopsy
like, grab
guy,
some tourists from Rome. Let's go.
The one autopsy guy with the big mustache. I'm like, they just found the one. Yeah.
Well, the fucking mob guy was like,
Louisiana guy.
You goddamn warlock, right? And he had that big fucking ginger stash. I was like, that guy is not Italian. I know that for sure. Like that, I would stake my whole name on.
Poor Joe the plumber. That was actually, I was like, man, Italians are just getting
Joe the plumber.
Getting smacked.
Yeah, I do. There's another like weird layer of enjoyment underneath this movie, or woven through it, in that like it's an Italian production and they're trying to do like American Gothic stuff, so everything is like kind of like goofily
oh my
American.
God, I'm so glad you said that.
And it's like, yeah, like the Joe's plumber thing is definitely like one of those things, like the doctor with like the gun in his office. That totally. I mean, and
who's just like boo boo boo. Yeah.
That's the whole thing. I was hoping we were going to talk about like the final like Walking Dead like sort of scenario there, because he clearly discovers that the headshots obviously work, and then never executes them consistently after that. He's constantly shooting them in the chest again, and then like the third or the sixth shot, whatever, he gets the head and it's like, okay, that worked, and then he reloads off screen, and then he starts shooting him again, and he's I think they just wanted to use the squibs. I think they just was like let's use them up. Doesn't matter.
There's also a nature
it's
of
a wonderful
like,
celebration
of Hell's hand moving him. Because I thought that too. I was like, these might be, other than Joe the plumber when he goes ape shit on Martha.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, these might actually be the most pathetic zombies I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
Like that autopsy room, I mean, they are moving at a glacial pace.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, they're not.
And there's
much.
nothing that seems threatening, right? And I was like, you didn't think to just pick up like a bone cracker mallet or whatever the fuck kind of prop you cut. Like, we got a meat tenderizer right here. I'm sure they have shit like that at a, morgue or whatever. Like, pick up something heavy and try to brain a couple of them. But he's like, no, I refuse to accept the truth. So it's almost like they're taunting him with insanely easy to kill zombies.
Right.
And I thought that too, because when Joe the plumber comes back, I was like, why is Joe the plumber the one who comes back to get Martha? Unless she was fucking him. That was my first thought.
I assumed it's because they were fucking.
Yes.
Yeah, because they had this weird thing when she walks up, super wet, when Joe walks up, wink, right? And she's like walking wop, right? She's like, hey, what's up, Joe? I cleared a path for you. He's like, what's up, girl? And then he walks over, and there's a path to hell, because this is one of the things, too. I was like, I don't know if this is just old world shit where we're just trained to be like, oh, they're of the servant class, so they're bad. Right? Yeah. But this movie, I was like, I think by the end, I was like, weren't Martha and Arthur just innocent victims?
Yeah.
And we're just led to believe that maybe she got Joe killed, and then he gets her, and Arthur's like this sweaty Peter Lorre creep in her bedroom.
Yeah.
And he's also asking about Joe, and then at the end, he's just a corpse. We don't even see him get got.
Yeah. I thought I missed it. I actually
I thought I missed it too.
I rewound the movie. Like I like earlier today, I rewound. I'm like, when was the last time I saw that fucking guy? And I like rewound the movie, and I was like, I guess I didn't miss it. It's one of those like none of my business.
Yeah. She's like, go check the chimney. He's like, all right, and that's it. Just like Wendy, he just gets frosty off screen, and we have no idea what happens, right?
Incredible.
But like even Joe coming back, right? So Joe somehow it goes from the morgue to like this room 237 scene. And I was like, oh my God, Joe the plumber, his version of hell is being a clog in a drain.
Oh my God.
I was like, this hell is so specific and mean to these people.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. That's amazing.
I didn't think about that at all.
Yeah, Arthur comes back and he starts leg grabbing but can't complete the job. I was like, oh man.
Are they all just their own personal hell of...
Yeah.
So there's zombies in there. Wow.
Well, is the narrator God or the devil? I don't know.
That tracks with Wendy too, because she's inexplicably found back in the morgue.
That's right. Oh fuck!
Shit.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So maybe that's like where she's damned to be, because she was traumatized there.
So then does that mean the movie takes place, like, obviously, like, that's a gateway to hell, the house is. Is it possible that New Orleans itself is a hellmouth? Like,
I mean, we definitely
a lot of
see
shit's happening.
magic outside of the hotel, right? So when the the super obnoxious architect who just keeps asking stupid Bob Vila questions that don't matter.
Seriously.
So something throws him on the ground before the super spiders, right?
Yeah.
And we see a couple other places where magic effects outside. I mean, the hospital, obviously. When probably my favorite kill was the glass shards in Harris's face. That was just fucking awesome.
Yeah,
that was such a good kill. I like the eyeball rips and shit, but that one was, I don't know why, that one really got me. But yeah, so I mean, by the end of the film, you start really questioning if any of this really happened, right? Maybe the gateway to hell just opened back when we were sepia.
Are they already in the gateway itself?
Yeah. I mean, because honestly, the doctor looks suspiciously like the lot of cheekbone creepy painter, right? And then Lisa and whatever her fucking name is, like there's two blonde white ladies. I was like, you could make an argument that this is people who just keep thinking that they're getting out and they're just reliving these fucking nightmare scenarios.
Maybe.
Because that's the thing. Liza's first thing we see her, right? She scares the fuck out of that painter. She's just already in the hotel, which is not where she lived or where she was reading that book, presumably, to Rob's point.
Yeah.
So why is she just there to scare that fucking painter? She never got out of there, I guess.
What if?
Yes, right.
The the freeway shot, like that one beautiful like fucking Jim Jarmusch shot in the movie. Like I don't know how else to describe it. It's just like it's like this weird. I was like, is the camera on a stilt and they're gonna do that Darren Aronofsky thing? Is that where he got it? Where it just like flips under? So, but here, is Liza unintentionally trying to escape and Emily's keeping her in? So at the end, when she's in the house saying like, I did what you asked, I did everything you asked, then because she fucking totally dimed out, and told what it was, that's why Dickie eats her.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's a Cerberus?
Is Dickie Cerberus / the devil himself, just like keeping tabs.
Wow.
Fucking dog. He was still a good boy. I'm convinced he's still a good boy.
Is the dog the hero of the movie?
I'm on record on this podcast. I fucking hate that killing dogs has become like a movie cheat.
Yeah.
Right? Where they want to get an emotional ploy, but they don't want to kill one of the face actors. Especially like, oh, we have a young CW guy with abs. We can't kill him. We'll kill his dog. I hate that shit. So I actually love seeing a dog fucking get revenge and rip a throat out.
Yeah.
That meant the world to me.
Yeah. I got my first dog last year, and like, it makes you more sensitive to those things. And, there's these shots of this dog with the zombies, hanging around, and I'm just like, oh man, I was like, please don't kill this dog.
No.
But they swerved away. From that.
I'm glad they did.
That's actually my contention, is that you could make Cruella de Vil more likable if she made that suit out of 101 kids than puppies. I think people would understand that more and forgive her.
We are not going to talk about that.
We don't have to do that again,
watch that. My wife made me watch that movie, and I cannot get into it. But wow,
101 kids, likable. That's all I'm going to say. It's out there now.
Yeah, it's called Silence of the Lambs. We get it. It's fine. Yeah.
Exactly right. That's Cruella. Would you fuck me? Oh, I don't know, missus. I guess I would. Right? Or whatever those smoking thugs were from that movie. Anywho, that's not the beyond. But yeah. But no, I mean, I think there is, because the other thing about that Duran Duran shot is it looks very
dreamy,
very idyllic, right? It almost is this like beautiful little oasis in the middle of a kind of crummy looking environment that we spend a lot of time in.
Yeah, we're in like the shittiest part of New Orleans.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It is not flattering. Like the tourism board of Louisiana did not sign off.
They got the cut of the film. They're like, you fucks.
Right.
And then Lucio Fulci's like, you are American. I don't know.
All of America is cultural wasteland. Yes, I don't know why he's Russian.
Oh my god, that is the approach to like all of the culture that is depicted in this movie. Is like,
absolutely,
you're American, I guess.
Yeah.
There's a trumpet over here. Like some guy's blowing into it, and that's it.
I noticed that too, that bar scene where Liza and the doctor are like talking. I'm like, they're drinking like super specific drinks that are
it's not a fine Pinot.
Yeah, like I mean, any other like if it was an American-made movie, a director would literally just be like, I don't know, just give him wine or some shit. But these are like she's drinking like
she's got like a milkshake or something.
Yeah,
She's
I don't know
like
what it
cherry
is
on it or something.
Yeah,
It's like a slim fast sex on the beach. Yeah,
European. Like,
yeah, it's like a frosé or something.
Yeah,
you know?
and he just had a whiskey, which felt a little more. Okay,
That's probably like
fits.
that's
because
more
he's
like
a fucking poser.
He's the detective character in the movie. Supposedly, he's like supposed to be the Sam Spade kind of. So him drinking whiskey made sense, but she literally is drinking like a milkshake.
Yeah,
and we're just
she's
I don't
drinking a milkshake in the middle of the day
and
in a jazz club.
It does feel just like this weird, like, this is American, right? And it's just like, put a band in the background. It'll be great.
Yeah. It's New Orleans. They,
I love
more brass instruments.
I love the version of America Lucio Fulci thinks we all live in.
Right.
It's great.
I know. It's too vague to be offensive. But it is sort of interesting to be like, oh, okay, all right. Well, yeah, that's fair.
Shit.
That's fair.
Like, you motherfuckers. It's like, what? Come on.
Oh man, that's so funny. Actually, the other thing that occurs during that scene that I think is the biggest tell that it's not American production is that she says that, like, inheriting the hotel is like her last shot and her last like financial sort of chance to get like be independent,
right?
Or she says, or I'll have to go on relief. And I'm like,
yes.
What is? Yeah, I think you mean welfare there or something like that. But that's not what we call it here.
They also had that
America.
great beat where she's like, I was a model in New York who did everything that would still let me be a lady. And I was like,
yeah,
there it is.
Yeah.
Right, like, we're not supposed to think she's a prostitute. We're very specific about that in the movie. This girl's not a prostitute. How dare you think that?
Yeah, she also pulls the New York card. She also pulls the I'm from New York card when she's talking to Emily, and is like, "Well, I've lived in New York, and if I've learned one thing, is that there's no such thing as ghosts." And like, that's the one thing you learn in New York.
That's the thing you learned in New York? What about not taking the subway after 3 a.m.?
Yeah, right.
Like,
I was like, what are you, the special assistant to the mayor? Good Lord.
Yeah, right.
The Ghostbusters would like a word, ma'am. Yeah.
Oh, man.
No, I think that's the thing, though, right? But with all these little, like, bugaboos and weird things, right? Like, when they run out of the house, right? When the supernatural storm hits, and right after the scientist is like, you crazy dummy, like, tell me facts. And then it's, you ask who she is, whatever. When they run out and leave the house, I was like, why are the zombies turning on all the lights in the room?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
we can see silhouettes.
Yeah.
And I think it gets back to this. I love movies that do this, right? And based in their very premise, they build in this story armor. So that even mistakes they make, a committed audience member and viewer can write that off as some evidence of something more happening. And I was like, that's a very performative, gesticulation from the house, right? Showing us these lost souls in every room and whatever. And then, they just magically appear in the hospital again. And so, again, I think those rough edges, though, are kind of that's actually the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Right?
I totally agree. And actually watching it again before talking to you guys, I'm like, this movie, what's actually really remarkable about this movie is that it is so close to becoming like Troll 2. Like, it is, you know what I mean? Like, it's so close to being like so ridiculous, but it keeps like one toe like in like some weird like liminal space where it's like, this is interesting. Yeah. And like that toe is so important because like you can't go full Troll 2. And this movie like knows
Never
that.
go full Troll 2.
Troll 2.
That is a
Everyone
beautiful way
this.
to say this, right?
Yeah.
Because whether it's the abstractness or the ambiguity, there's always just enough to keep you engaged between the face stab and the eyeball pokes, right?
Yes.
All that stuff that we want to see. But there is just this really weird, and I think that is kind of one of the fun things when you're talking about a Gateway to Hell movie, is every scene you're just like, something's wrong. And that kind of gets back to this alchemy thing we do on the show where it's, it's this weird Italian version of America, and it's heaven and hell, but maybe like a false hell, like zombie. Who knows? Who knows what the fuck is happening? But you can't stop trying to figure it out because the imagery is so powerful.
Yeah.
You feel like you're like, if they can get those images, there has to be more here, right? They didn't just make this movie with no fucking narrative at all, right? That can't be. Why would they show me the 3 silent footsteps? Like,
yes.
So you're doing all of this work that probably doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah, you're filling in the gaps yourself because there are so many. But there are
the narrative of the movie is like that rotting basement wall we see at the start.
Yeah, exactly. But there's just enough in the movie to like hang your hat on in terms of like trying to figure it out, trying to convince yourself of some logic. But it is this weird kind of dream logic that that carries you from one scenario to the next. Like that shot where they run away from the house and the lights come on and we see all those zombies, and I like that shot. I was like, that is actually legitimately kind of spooky. I didn't even think about like, what are they turning the lights on? I was like, of course that's ridiculous.
Of course they would turn the lights on. It's hard to see.
Like,
well, don't they have seeing eye devil dogs? What the fuck?
They do. You'd be surprised to hear they do not. It is this like, I mean, there's nothing. It just works. And the toe, that's a great way to put it. The toe in like this level of artistry that like, if you take it off, it just becomes Troll 2
falls apart. Yeah.
It's so important, and it makes this movie that much more engaging and watchable on like multiple viewings. I have to now watch it again regardless. Like it just has to happen. It's a rewatchable movie, and I think that is very rare in a lot of these kinds of films.
Well, because a lot of them don't get past the, hey, we can make a really good fake head and explode it, right? Like when they shoot Wendy in the face, I was like, oh fuck, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like that head explodes scanner style. And I was like, that's a shot. Like someone in the back was like, like nailed it, right? When they got
someone
that
like
on
Danny
camera,
McBride in
like,
Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, exactly. Like they just nailed it, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the movies did that well. But almost, I would say very few, not almost none. Like there are a lot of good movies from this era. But very few of them can do that last 5 minutes. You know, when you take all the zombies out and you clear it out, and the zombies never sit up when they're covered in the sand or whatever the fuck that is, right? And just a simple thing, like everywhere they turn, why is it that say diorama, right? It's not a 360-degree space. It's just this weird fucking thing. And again, it feels wrong. You're like, the spatial reality of this is wrong. It feels horrible. And their eyes go, and you see their different and that's what I mean. So there are moments in the film where they show transcendent talent above a lot of this ilk. They can do the spider eating scene, right? Like a lot of movies could do that. This one also does that really well. And I think that's the beautiful marriage that worked for this movie.
I think that's well said. It's the movie takes enough moments of that wrong feeling of that artistry, and just makes the calculus of it work. Because I mean, I am a big horror fan, and how many like god awful like head exploding movies have I sat through and like don't remember, because that's all it is. And it's not even that, like, I don't think The Beyond has something necessarily to say. But like, as we were saying, like there's vibes, man. And like, that is so important. Like it puts you in a mood. You laugh at it. Like the Wendy thing, like I laughed in shock because I did not think that the movie was going to go there at that moment, that big. Like
also, she's awesome. Like 10 years old at
the
oldest, right?
Also, as I was saying before, this Dr. McKay is shooting all these guys in the stomach again and again, and then like there's just one moment where this girl turns on Eliza, and it's like a perfect like Han Solo spin and bam, like it's like perfect. Yeah, man, they really nailed it. But yeah, no, it's just it understands that like the gore is like the fun of it, but there's also like this other side to the horror that is like the unknowable, and you know, the wrongness, and the spatial thing is weird too. It's confusing at some points, like in the beginning, like when we don't know exactly where Emily is.
Right.
I also thought like there's something about him finding the blueprints to the house, and then like he falls off the ladder, he gets eaten by spiders, and you think, wow, it's a grim, but he wakes up enough to look at the book and the plans vanish, which is also like almost like a metaphor for the entire film, because like we're trying to understand and then the film is like, no. Yeah, that doesn't fucking matter.
That's a good point, because
that's like, a really good way to put that.
Yeah, is there like a cheekboned, creepy architect next to the like room 337 is like the architect from hell? Like,
right.
Who knows? Why is that on file with the?
That is the perfect imagery of this movie, though. Is literally like the blueprint. Like that is the most plot heavy moment we have.
Yeah,
like someone is hunting for the truth. And as soon as they're like...
Dude, that bitch is like, I could put 4 more rooms down there. He's not hunting for shit, except for dollars, right? That was hell showing him a little teat.
He has a reaction, right? Like, he does notice something initially.
Yeah, that's he sees like this huge space.
I thought he had like a Scrooge McDuck boner moment where he's like, "Oh boy," you know what I mean? Because the whole movie is just like, "What if we did this to make more dollars? What if we did this?"
Yeah,
and he just sees that opening to hell, and all he can think about is real estate.
Yeah,
but that's exactly. But then we get like some semblance of plot moving. And it's like, that is fucking unimportant. Look at this cool shit we're about to do with like these many spiders.
Watch 4.5 minutes of
gone.
spiders
like,
chewing.
So long. Yeah.
Yes.
Crazy.
Hey, if you're going to do it, though, get your money's worth. Get your money's worth.
Yeah.
But yeah,
get it.
I think that's a good way to wrap it up, man. It's just one of those rare mixes where it feels like every scene could be the scene you're going to turn it off. And you never do. And then you turn it on again. And yeah, I love because that's the thing, right? To Rob's point is there's a lot of movies that try to make you uncomfortable or try to be weird.
Yeah.
This one just does it so naturally and effortlessly that it works, right? Because if you detect a filmmaker like they're fucking with me on purpose, right? It feels unfair and it's cheating and you're out. This one doesn't feel that way at all, right? Now, how they achieve that could be, through negligence or brilliance. I don't know. But the effect is the same.
Yeah.
It just works, man. And yeah, I think the biggest critique you can have of a movie is, again, to Rob's point, is that it's just forgettable. Right? If you can make me
especially
feel
these kinds of
and you
movies.
Can make me remember, that's more than having like an ideology to share with me. And the Beyond has at least 4 or 5 moments I feel like you will never forget after you watch it.
Yeah. No. When I was sending you guys the list and, looking through, recent horror movies that I watched, like I saw The Beyond and I was like, oh, that's the Lady in the Road movie with the dog. Like I just immediately knew what the movie was.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's the power of this movie. It's not like that. It says something. It taps into like, Catholic guilt or something like that. No, it's not about that. It's just like, it just takes you on a ride that, I don't know, that so few movies do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That movie is our seeing eye dog into hell. All right, Rob, would you like to tell everyone, well, first off, thank you again for the time.
Thank you so much, man.
Well, thank you for having
me. Do you want to tell everyone where they can find you on your socials and if there's a website you want them to go to check out your stuff?
Sure. I only do one social, and that's Twitter. And you can find me at Rob Pilk, Pilk, first 4 letters of my last name. I'm on there a lot. I'm on there too much. Makes me unhappy, and I can't stop. So
I know that.
Please help me.
Twitter's fun.
And my website is robpilk.com. Hopefully that's easy to remember. And yeah, you can find my book at the TKO presents.com is the publisher website. And the title is Dame from the Dark. It's a little supernatural crime caper. And yeah, hope you'll like it.
It's right up this ilk's alley. That's for sure.
We'll have all that in the details so you guys can find Rob. Thank you again, Rob. This was an awesome choice.
Thank you.
This was great.
Yes.
All right, we'll see you guys back tomorrow for another horror movie. 31 Days, 31 Months.